12:05 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM. It's Wednesday. That means it's time for Helping Seniors of Brevard. Let's get things underway as we introduce the host of the show and the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard, Kerry Fink. Good afternoon, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper. Thank you. And thank you for always doing such a great job of helping us get this show on the air right here. It's Wednesday. It's the noon hour, and this is our lunchtime gathering every week right around 90.3 FM, WEJF radio. Thanks for joining us. And also, we want to welcome the listeners who tune in online because they do that at WEJF.net. And also shout out to everybody who picks this up as a podcast because really since the start of the year, we have been putting these out. So wherever you find podcasts, if you're an Apple iTunes person, just tell it you want to see Helping Seniors Radio. If you're maybe you use the Amazon podcast, just tell Alexa, find Helping Seniors Radio. It really doesn't matter. You'll find it any place that you're looking for podcasts. And so we want to thank you for listening in today. We have a great show ahead. There's so much stuff going on in the Helping Seniors world that on behalf of Joe Steckler, our president and founder, we kind of want to dive right in. We've got some news items, and then we have some very important items with our guest today, Bill Johnson, who is board-certified elder law attorney, and he really keeps his finger on the pulse of what's going on legislatively and is going to update us on stuff going on with seniors. And also in the studio with us is none other than our operations director who is fearlessly tackling the phones and helping seniors throughout Brevard County. It's Nancy Deardorff. How are you today, Nancy?
I'm well. Good afternoon.
We've had a busy week already. I was just thinking about this Sunday. We want to give a thank you to the Satellite Beach Lions Club. They are so kind. Every year they invite us out for their big car show that they have there at the Schechter Center in Satellite Beach, and there was lots of people. I was trading emails with Lance Smith, who's the organizer, and he said that was a record for them. And we also want to thank you if you were out there because it was a record for us. As you know, it sort of represented the kickoff for the Helping Seniors 2022 6th annual car raffle. And so we were out there. We had some cool cars. It was a lot of fun, Nancy.
It was fun, and it was a great day to have it. And my thank you as well to the Lions Club and for having us out.
Yeah, and if you didn't get out, but you still want to get involved and get your car raffle tickets early in the season, now is a great time to do that. You can go to helpingseniorscarraffle.com. Bill, they gave us a really cool Dodge Challenger. It was everybody was just oohing and awing. There's pictures of it. If you go to the Facebook page for Helping Seniors, you'll see some of the shenanigans with that. It was fun. And then you're also partial to the Mazda, and they gave us a really nice Mazda convertible. The weather was perfect. It was absolutely the right day for that, Bill.
Well, I'm looking at your flyer, and they both look pretty good.
Yeah, you can't go wrong, but you got to be in it to win it. One ticket is $25. $5 for a $100 donation, and I'm happy to say that we're sending Bill back to his office with tickets and posters and stuff, so you are actually a ticket pickup point now. Again.
We are?
Yeah. I appreciate all the help that you've been to us as Helping Seniors over the year, and we're going to dig a little bit deeper into that. Our topic today, like I said, is called Legislative Updates, and we really want to talk about updating and why this is important to you. As you know, Nancy, we set out at the beginning of the year to make this the year about getting your ducks in a row. It's kind of our drumbeat. Joe has always talked about an aging plan. We did a really nice, at least I think it was nice, and we've had some good comments on it. We devoted our February Senior Scene edition to important paperwork. And Bill, you have several articles in there, but Nancy, you've been getting a lot of feedback about that already.
A lot of feedback. Bill, thank you for joining us again. And I was just talking to Bill before the show after his guest appearance in January and his wonderful article in February. The phone calls to our senior information line that I received regarding getting your ducks in a row with your legal papers increased dramatically. So people are listening, which is, of course, our goal is to educate and inform. Knowledge is power. And it's so important that people start thinking about developing their own aging plan. Again, not to panic, folks. I did get some feedback from some senior friends of mine that were like, wow, I'm really behind the eight ball, and they started to panic. And I said, don't panic. Once again, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And it's not something to panic people. It's something to think about, contemplate, and break down, which is what we're doing in the areas of legal, household, financial, health and or medical, and other. And it's a good starting point. So thank you to Bill for that article. It really people read it and absorbed it, which is our ultimate goal, to inform, educate, and advocate for seniors.
Yeah, so well said. And, so like I was saying, it's already been a busy week because Monday was actually our first attempt back. We call it kind of a reboot. I guess that's what they call it these days. If you remember, for a couple of years, we've been doing community education information events there at Zon Beachside. They have a beautiful room there. We call it the Lighthouse, but they call it the Nautilus Ballroom. And so we brought back our first ever Senior Resource Center of Brevard post-COVID session open to the public. So it's like a 55-minute talk, and it's all, again, on that theme of helping you develop your aging plan. And the point I was going to bring out, to tag on to what you had said, Nancy, is this is really a marathon. It's not a sprint. So our goal is over this year to help you think of all the things to kind of break it down, almost checklist. We talk about when a pilot lands an airplane, you usually have the co-pilot read the checklist, not because they don't know how to land the plane, but just, hey, did you remember to drop the landing gear? And important things like that all along the way. And so actually, if you didn't see the February edition of Senior Scene, make sure you go to helpingseniorsbrevard.org, because we always make sure all of this material is available to you. All our past radio shows, TV shows, everything like that is there. And if you want to pick up and see Bill's articles, he did a really good one called 5 Legal Documents You Need for Your Own Aging Plan. You want to see that. It's the newsletter. We called it Important Paperwork. And now the March edition is out, and we called it Life Planning. And there's besides the cute little duck on the cover, it says life is all about how you handle Plan B. And the best way to handle Plan B is think about it before you have to make Plan B, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so be looking for that, and put on your calendar to join us. The Senior Resource Center Brevard events happen the last Monday of each month. So the next one is going to be March 28th, 10:30 on Beachside. And it's just great to see, Nancy, that we're getting back a little bit more towards normal, where people can get out and participate in stuff again, I think.
It's wonderful. It was really great to gather together, and all for the sake of learning and education.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been, if you've been, you know how great it is. If you haven't been, now that we've restarted that, it is a wonderful opportunity for seniors and their families to come out, learn from the experts in their field, educate themselves. And aside from that, it's in the wonderful environment of Zon Beachside's Grand Ballroom, or the Nautilus Room, and it's social. And you have a chance to talk to the guest speakers right afterwards. It's a great it's a great, I don't want to call it an event, it's a great take-in.
Yeah.
And it's only an hour, and it's just chock-filled with experts in their field. And knowledge is power. So don't wait to learn about what you might need to know about later. Get the information now, so that when something does happen, you're well equipped to know who to call and how to move forward through that.
Yeah, I was going to say, and by the way, the breakfast muffins and the coffee are actually worth showing up for by themselves.
Absolutely.
Chef Jason is amazing there.
Isn't he?
And so, but that's why we do ask you to RSVP, because they got to know how many breakfast muffins and things to put out. So, Nancy, probably you're the best way. Somebody says, hey, I want to get signed up, RSVP me for the next one.
Sure.
They should call you, right?
RSVP, I can be reached on our senior information line at 321-473-7770.
So I guess that's kind of our news. And I was thinking, Bill, that's what we're really going to talk about. I want to reintroduce Bill because Bill is such a great friend and a great resource to us here in Helping Seniors of Brevard. He has so generously donated his time and his energy to help us in all that we do helping seniors. And one of the things that you're particularly keep your finger on the pulse of is what's going on legislatively and how that impacts us seniors. And we always talk about 1 in 4 people here in Brevard County is over 65. That makes them for sure a senior. And even if you want to be a little bit generous about it and use AARP's definition, which is 50, because they'll send you that card in the mail on your 50th birthday, they call those seniors, and that's half the population here in Brevard County. So you either are a senior, love and care for a senior, or very soon you're going to be a senior, God willing. So Bill, what are you seeing out there? This is a complicated time about all that for seniors, isn't it?
It is, but compared to past legislative sessions, there's not a whole ton of senior bills this year. Huh. So there are a bunch of bills that deal with a whole variety of different topics that affect seniors, but there's not a whole lot of them that are moving. The session is currently ongoing, so we don't have anything that's been passed that the governor signed and will be law, so everything's still in a state of flux, but we're getting a fairly good idea of what's going to come through, because they are getting down to the wire as far as the last committee meetings, and then these bills head to the floors of the House and Senate, and if they pass both of those, then on to the governor, and if he signs them, then they come into law.
I was thinking about this. We were talking before the radio show that I was privileged to be part of planning the Florida State Guardianship Association does an ethics symposium once a year because they want to make sure that everybody who's in that world understands all the challenges is moving correctly in terms of their care for the people that they're responsible for. And I remember thinking this was fascinating because I'm sort of just background in this. I don't really have anything to contribute, but more on the technical side of it. But it was interesting to hear one of the speakers, he was talking about that somebody from the state legislature had called him because they needed this. And he said, that's good. He said, give me, he said, I'll work on this over the next few weeks and get this all together, what you're asking me to help with. And he said, this was news to me. He said, the person goes, this is not how this works in legislature. I got to have this because we're going to write this up in the next 15 minutes. And I guess it was some technical language that they needed his expertise to help them do. That's pretty common, isn't it?
That is very common. During this time of year, when the session is going, we are sometimes given a bill, asked what we think about it, and then if we have, usually we can't just say, no, we won't support this.
Right.
Usually they want to get you to a yes, which then involves you having to take the bill and come up with your own language, and usually you only have a few days to do it.
Yeah, that was kind of surprising. I thought it was maybe, I don't know, I thought it was maybe more organized, but it sounds like much of it ends up being hurry up and wait, right?
Exactly, and sometimes it's characterized by moments of sheer terror because you're looking at a bill going, if this becomes law, this is going to be crazy. Well, how it's going to be implemented and the effect it's going to have, and you've got to understand that our legislators cannot possibly be experts in every field. So they are looking at bills that may be something that their business background is totally unfamiliar with. And so they need people who are in that field to tell them, no, you don't want to do that because this is what will happen. Or do that because this will be very good. So they do rely a lot on input from various different groups.
Yeah. Now, that's pretty clear. And I guess the question is, because I know you're the president of the Space Coast chapter of the Florida State Guardian Association, and that's literally like 100+ people who get together monthly because they're trying to make sure that they're doing everything the right way. And that's just like one aspect of things when we talk about senior care. I mean, there's so many dimensions to all of this.
You are correct. Yeah, the players that get involved when it comes to legislation. If you think about it, you got AARP out there.
Right.
You've got the elder law section and the real property probate and trust law section of the Florida Bar. You've got the Florida Healthcare Association. You got the Assisted Living Association. And I know I'm forgetting, you got the Florida State Guardianship Association. You've got a variety of players depending on what the particular topic is and how, if it's a financial, legal, or healthcare topic. And all these people, you have the association, or what is it called, Florida Disability Rights.
Right.
That gets involved in certain things too. So there's a lot of players depending on what the issue is.
Yeah, that was a question. So let me ask you this, because you're really
and I forgot. You also have the judges who get involved sometimes.
Yeah, because I just think about some of the conversations we've had along the way. We've that have come up with legislation, everything from like DNRs, do not resuscitate orders, and just some of the stuff that you find yourself kind of like navigating your way through. And I was going to ask you, Bill, since you're pretty experienced at this whole legislative process, do you find yourself more helping? Because it would seem like a lot of it would end up being reactive. Somebody proposes a bill, and now you have to kind of help some way make sure it's doing A, what they intended, and B, that it's not actually harmful.
So, yeah, sometimes we propose legislation. We had a piece of legislation this year. Other times we have to track a whole slew of different bills. When the bills get filed, part of that process is they identify what statutes will have to be changed. And then we have our lobbyist has a tickle system that anytime they're changing these statutes, we need to look at the bill.
Right.
And that's kind of how you identify the particular bills of interest. But sometimes there's outliers, things you don't think would be important come up, and they become important. And it's in a statute that really you would not think has any impact on seniors, but when you delve into it, it could.
I guess some of this is devil in the details, right? Because it's probably also in the wording or how it's...
Oh, it's very much in the wording. You can have huge arguments over just some very simple words.
Wow. So for those of us that are like, I would just call us on the consumer end, we're the hopefully beneficiaries of good legislation, not the victims of it, right? How do we, one part of what we do with helping seniors is we advocate for seniors. You cannot pick up a newspaper in this county without seeing Joe Steckler advocating on behalf of seniors. In fact, during the second half of the show, we're going to talk a little bit about something that's really come to the forefront, and we're almost like a victim of our own success. And we're going to talk about affordable housing. We're going to get a little bit into that. But my point was, so Joe is never shy about combating something that would impact seniors negatively. So he'll write the article and he'll try to get the conversation started. And then we do whatever we can from our perspective to make sure legislators understand that this is going to impact seniors and we need to be helpful. How do you recommend, from kind of your voice of experience and knowledge of how that whole system works, what can we do, A, as an organization, but even if you're a listener, you say, I care, I want to do something. What's the best consumer thing to do?
Well, you have to figure out what your target market is. Is it a county issue? If so, then you need to go talk to your county commissioner. Mm-hmm. If it's a state issue, you need to talk to your state legislator. And if it's a national issue, then you got to talk to your representative or senator on the issue. So the first step is getting in contact and voicing what your issue is or what you would like to see done. Obviously, legislators get huge amounts of mail and on all kinds of different topics. We found it effective, we being the elder law section, is to have our own actual lobbyist to be able to do that. But that does not come cheap. That is quite a huge bill we have to fork out every year. And for example, an organization like the Florida State Guardianship Association, even though they have quite a few members, they don't have the resources to hire a lobbyist. So a lot of times on these guardianship issues, they kind of, legislation, they kind of get shut out of the conversation.
Wow.
And another one is you have to know the conversation's going on too.
Right.
Like when we were passing the DNR rules for guardianship, there was a lot of how is this going to work and all that. But nobody thought to contact the Florida Medical Association and talk to the doctors.
Wow.
And they weren't involved in that conversation at all.
How interesting is that? And it just seems like, because I think the statement that, at least in my mind, that has always stood out, and I never really understood this, but hearing you talk about the process, I kind of get it, was when they were trying to pass Obamacare and somebody said, oh, we have to pass it and then we'll read what's in it. I thought, that seems a little scary, right? That's a lot of trust in there, right?
It is, and you can have a lot of unintended consequences of these things. The DNR bill, basically it says that if you're a professional guardian and the person doesn't have a DNR, you have to go to court and get a court order before you can sign a DNR, and you have to have medical testimony, and there's a variety of things that you have to jump through. Well, that was all a knee-jerk reaction to the Fatality case out of Orlando, where the guardian had signed a DNR and the guy ended up passing away, and then later the family had a big problem with that. The unintended consequences were, initially they wanted us to use a procedure, and that would have required waiting like 10, 15 days before we could have gotten a DNR. Well, if somebody's terminal and they're dying, the hospital would have no recourse but to keep resuscitating them again and again and again with broken ribs and all these horrific, you'd be torturing somebody. So we finally agreed to require that the court hold a hearing within 48 hours or 72 hours, I think it is, on that issue. But even then, there was some legislation proposed this year to change that procedure, because even waiting 3 days may not be quick enough.
Yeah, I remember hearing a conversation that you guys were having as the Florida State Guardianship Association, where you were talking about somebody admitted to a hospital, and then the doctor is recommending, but as the guardian, you still have to go through this. So you're actually, in a bizarre way, you're not helping, the person you're responsible for. But you're required to have this waiting time until you can get in front of a judge or something.
Right. And with a DNR, you really can't go and get a court order for one unless the person's already very ill.
Wow.
So it's not something you could do ahead of time. You have to wait till they get to the very end of life, and then now you got to go through this procedure. Whereas before, a guardian could just sign a DNR. And most people don't know, for a do not resuscitate order, it also has to be signed by the physician.
Right.
So that whole case in Orlando with the guardian, Fatality, she couldn't sign just the DNR on her own. The doctor also had to sign it. And a lot of that got lost in all the news articles, that there was actually a physician who signed off on that.
Yeah, I remember actually that you and I did a radio show where we were talking about, kind of in the heat of that moment, where all that stuff was moving along. So it's really an interesting thing to kind of understand how all of that is moving through. So, Bill, we're going to come back on the second half of the show and continue our conversation about legislative updates, and we're going to also get into the topic of affordable housing. But if somebody wants to find out more about just their own personal situation, making sure their documents in order, what's a good way to reach you?
They can reach us at the office at 321-253-1667.
All right, that's Bill Johnson, board-certified elder law attorney, good friend of Helping Seniors, William A. Johnson, PA. We're going to be back with the second half of Helping Seniors right after this.
12:32 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM. You're listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard, heard every Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 o'clock. As we get back to the show right now, let's reintroduce the host of the show and the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard, Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Hi, John Harper. How are you doing today?
Well, we're doing well.
Yeah, we're having a great conversation. You know, it's fascinating. We gather around the radio every Wednesday, lunchtime, 12 noon to 1 p.m. Make sure you tell your friends right here on 90.3 FM, WEJF, and also to the listeners online, WEJF.net. And, you know, what we were just talking about is how the time kind of flies by because there's so many things for us to be talking about. And in the studio with us today, as it is the first Wednesday of each month, is none other than board-certified elder law attorney Bill Johnson of William A. Johnson, PA. And also in the studio is Nancy Deardorff, our operations director. Welcome back, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're having the conversation about legislative updates because I guess right now the legislature is in session there in Tallahassee. And during the first half of the show, we were talking a little bit generally about how the process works. And I remember I've heard it called before in some political circles. It's like people don't really want to understand the sausage-making process because it's not always pretty. But I guess what Bill is going to share with us now is maybe some specific updates that are at least in that process right now.
So the elder law section of the Florida Bar had proposed something called the Uniform Guardianship Jurisdiction Act, which Florida is only one of 3 states that have not enacted it. And what that act does is actually sets a framework where you can transfer cases from Florida to another state or from another state to Florida. And I've actually had several cases where we have transferred out of Florida to another state and they've refused to honor anything Florida did.
Wow. Because
we are not or have not adopted the act. Regrettably, that one was moving in the Senate, but I think it was moving in the Senate, but did not move in the House. So that one's probably dead on arrival this year. So we'll have to probably bring that one up next year. It didn't get through the committees in one of the houses of the legislature. Earlier this year, the Association of Clerks and Comptrollers, the Florida Association of Clerks and Comptrollers, had formed a task force to look at some issues with regard to guardianship. This was a task force that they handpicked, and they had a variety of meetings that are all on YouTube. So if you want to see what happened at the meetings, including the public comment section, which was always quite interesting, you can find that. It's on FL Clerks is the YouTube handle for them. But they came out with some recommendations, and one of those was to come up with some data collection to find out about things that are going on in Florida guardianships. There was a bill that they proposed, which is, for lack of a better word, called guardianship data collection. And that has a Senate bill and a House bill. It is somewhat moving. There have been quite a few amendments to it, generally centering around privacy concerns. Just because somebody's incapacitated doesn't mean the whole world gets to see all their medical and financial information. It is, just some examples. Do you want the world to know that your uncle is going through a whole pack of Depends every week? Things like that. And healthcare information can get very, specific.
Sure.
And who do you want to know that, what your dad's assets consist of? And we were having some issues with that. I mean, even if you limit it just to judges and the clerk's office, in Florida, you're talking about 50,000 people having access to that information.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so, And why do they need access to that information is the other thing. And you were talking about arguing about words. We've had a big argument because it says they shall gather the information at a minimum. And the information that's listed at a minimum, we don't necessarily have a big problem with, but the at a minimum is a big problem because it means they can collect anything they want.
Wow.
And so that has been going back and forth. So we'll see what comes up, but mainly it is the point of the bill, from what we've been told. I'm not so sure the bill actually does what people are telling us it does, is supposedly to let judges be able to access like a professional guardian and see how many cases they have in Brevard, Orange, or each jurisdiction, and what their disciplinary records are, and that kind of thing at a touch. So we'll see where that is. It has been moving. What the final bill looks like, we don't know. Another bill that is not necessarily for seniors, but deals with developmentally disabled people. Mm-hmm. So when you have a developmentally disabled child, autistic or Down syndrome or something along those lines, when they turn 18, you as a parent cannot talk on their behalf anymore because they have reached the age of majority. Mm-hmm. Up until age 18, you are what we call the natural guardian. Mm-hmm. So you can make the decisions for your kids all the way up until 18, of course, unless they've emancipated themselves. But at 18, you cannot. And this is a huge problem in making medical decisions, financial decisions, educational decisions. Now, the good news is a lot of these kids don't have big financial decisions, so the parents can simply go to Social Security, become a designated payee, and if the kid is receiving what we call SSI, Supplemental Security Income, or Medicaid, the parent can be a designated payee, and they can interact with Social Security, no problem. The medical side, if the child is unable to execute a designation of healthcare surrogate, there is a statute, a healthcare proxy statute, that basically says the parents will make the medical decisions for the child. So we can deal with that. The problem typically becomes the educational system. And at age 18, the parents can no longer talk for the child to the high school. Now, probably a lot of people don't know this, but the school system can take and keep these people, I think it's up to age 26 or something like that, in programs within the school system. So they can keep them well beyond when most kids would have graduated. But the parents can't talk to the educational system. So there is a bill that is working on changing that, which would be like a healthcare proxy, except it would be an educational proxy. So if the person's unable to make their own educational decisions, the parents would. Because this kink, so in the hose, has forced a lot of these parents to have to go out, hire attorneys to do guardian advocacies. That's where we get the parents legally appointed as guardians for a developmentally disabled person. And it's that particular kink in the hose has just created a pipeline to law firms. And quite frankly, we don't think there should be that pipeline to law firms if the only assets of the developmentally disabled person are SSI or Medicaid, and somebody can make healthcare decisions. Why can't we have a workaround so that they don't have to go through this whole process of hiring lawyers and doing all that? So that is moving. At least it was last time I checked. There is another bill that is something called supported decision making. The elder law section had worked on that with disability rights, so had the real property probate trust law section. We thought we had a bill that we could run with, and then disability rights decided they didn't like that bill and filed their own bill. And subsequently, there were, again, a lot of problems in the back and forth. And we couldn't support that bill as written. And eventually, that bill particularly just died in committee.
Yeah.
So it'll probably be back again because that is a quite a big national issue. And what supported decision making is if you have one of these guardianships over a developmentally disabled person and they're reasonably high functioning, they should be involved in the decisions, not just the guardian making the decisions. And so you help support them to make a decision on what they want to do because they can't really do it themselves. So I think it's a good idea. I think it works well in the area of developmentally disabled individuals, probably not so much in adult guardianships.
Right.
Because in adult guardianships, we typically have a lot of kids who try to influence their demented parent into doing what they want them to do. Right. And basically, this would be kind of like a license for undue influence.
Right.
A codified, you can influence your parent to make whatever decision, and then everybody's got to honor that. So I don't think it works necessarily well in that context. There are a few bills that deal with estates and things like that. I won't go much into them. There's one that proposes that generally, if a child has a lawsuit or receives a large inheritance, a parent will have to become the guardian of the minor child because of the amount of money involved. The parent can't just take the child's money as their own,
right?
And has to typically put it in a restricted depository. And when the child turns 18, the guardian of the property of the minor turns that asset over to them. Well, a lot of people, I guess, don't like the fact that we have to turn over this money at age 18. They want some sort of mechanism whereby the parent could set up some sort of trust that maybe go to 26 or something, where the money could be held past 18 because I think the logic behind it is, well, why are we going to drop $1 million in an 18-year-old's lap? It's probably not a good idea. I agree with that. I know that issue has gone to the Supreme Court before, and they have struck that down.
Wow.
Because once you're 18, it's your money. And why should people be able to lock up your money? So there are two sides to that issue. We'll see if that one gets through. If it gets through, that may end up in some sort of constitutional challenge. There were a few other interesting bills. They were looking at, they have a thing called senior fatality teams that basically try to get to the bottom of why, seniors are passing away, whether it be in a nursing home setting, assisted living. However, when all those records are exempt from the Sunshine Law, except the opinions of the people on the Fatality Review Team. So subsequently, the people on the Fatality Review Team have not really expressed certain opinions, which has hindered the work of the Fatality Review Team.
Wow.
And they want to get an exemption from the Sunshine Law, so their opinions, people can't just make a sunshine request and find out what their opinions are, because they will then not talk as freely as they would if their opinions were not known to the public, I guess, which would hinder their work. That was proposed. It has not gone anywhere, so I guess they're still going to be hindered by not being able to express freely what they are finding. So, and that's about it. I'm looking at a list of probably 25 bills, and I can tell you most of them are dead in the water.
Wow. I was thinking, Nancy, as Bill was sharing this with us, it's an interesting look behind the curtain. I think most of us don't really get the nuances of what's going on with all this stuff.
Oh, I know I don't for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we're not alone in that.
Yeah, and Bill, it's fascinating, and thank you for staying on top of that and sharing with us what's going on. And, as we were talking about at the beginning, a lot of times the question is, what can a nonprofit, and that's what we are, Helping Seniors of Brevard, is a nonprofit. Joe Steckler, retired Navy captain, he's the guy that built those Joe's Clubs for the Brevard Alzheimer's Association. And then we were just talking about it. In 2011, he founded Helping Seniors of Brevard, and Nancy and I were counting up. We're now into our 12th year of service, right?
Yes, we were saying in our 11th year, but we're in our 12th year of service, yes.
And the whole point, one of the things that Joe has been serious about is getting the story told. Because I always explain this. We live in a county where we have more seniors over 65 than we have kids under 18, and that's all fine and well. And this county loves their kids. We love our kids. We voted for a 0.5-cent sales tax just so we could try to make sure that the Brevard County school system has enough resources to do what it should to help us have excellent education for our kids. So that's to be commended. The question is, what are we doing for our seniors? And so one of the challenges that we really have here in this county, and Nancy, you're getting more calls about it than anything else. It sounds like recently you're getting over 300 calls a month, and it sounds like a lot of them have to do with affordable housing.
Yeah, my number one call lately, in the last 2 months, I would say, is for affordable housing from seniors, a variety of ages of seniors, many of them younger seniors, 66, 67, but the age varies. No matter what age you are, if you're a senior, one of your worries should not be having a roof over your head. And what I'm finding through my callers who teach me every day, my callers call for help, and I help them, but also they're my teachers. And what I'm finding is that many people, particularly much older seniors, have been on Social Security for a long while, and there's amount that they're getting in Social Security is not even covering where rents are going to. Rent rates are being hiked up very, very high, and it's pretty hard to live in a $1,000 apartment or rental if your Social Security is $850 a month. That's what I'm finding. There are resources in Brevard County, but nothing is instantaneous. I'm very honest. I'm supportive, emotionally supportive of my callers, but I'm also very honest. There's no quick solution. If someone calls me today and says, I need affordable housing, I got to be out of where I'm at in 2 weeks, nothing happens that quickly. But I don't want to discourage people. I still want to encourage people to reach out to us because there are solutions, and our goal at Helping Seniors of Brevard is to help lead you to those solutions. And I can be reached on our senior information line at 321-473-7770. I always stress, I will not interrupt a phone call. If you call and get voicemail, it probably means I'm on the line helping someone else. Please do leave a voicemail. I will call you back. While we're not an urgent hotline, we're not an emergency service, sometimes it might be the next day before I get back to you. My commitment and promise to our seniors is that I call every single caller back. You will hear from me.
Absolutely. Sorry, Bill.
I was just going to say, just for the listeners, that this is a nationwide problem, that there is not affordable housing. The moratorium off of rent increases and evictions has expired. So overnight, rents have doubled in some places.
Wow.
And I think we were talking about this before the show. I read a statistic about the percentage of homeless people who are seniors has doubled.
Yeah.
And it is amazing. We're going to see seniors cannot afford the housing, so the numbers of homeless seniors is going to go way up.
Yeah.
Right, and that's evidence, and it's not some other place. It's United States, but it's also here, right here in Brevard County, and we do need folks' support. If I can mention, we are a nonprofit 501c charitable organization, and we are 100% dependent on donations, privately, corporate sponsorships. if anybody wants to donate or sees it in their heart to donate to keep our mission going, which is to improve the lives of seniors in our county and beyond, please reach out. I can tell you easy ways to donate. Again, it's 321-473-7770. There is no amount that's too much, need I say, but there's no amount that's too small. Whether it's a one-time donation or an ongoing thing, we sure do appreciate, because we depend. They say it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to help our seniors as well, and we appreciate it. And 100% of donation sponsorship go right back into helping our seniors of Brevard.
Yeah, very well said. And I was thinking about this. Joe has really picked up the battle cry about this affordable housing thing. In fact, he's got articles in Hometown News, Aldea Today, Ebony News Today, all the places that you read Joe, Senior Scene Magazine. And we're actually going to take this a step farther, because I sit on a group called the Brevard Commission on Aging, which actually Joe was the chairman of for many years early on back in his Brevard Alzheimer's days. But the group is actually authorized by the county commissioners, and it is, quote, the official body that is supposed to be looking at issues of concern for seniors. And I can tell you, in the past couple of meetings, the need for the entire ability to look at seniors is really so important. And so they've been advocating that we need to concentrate on affordable housing for seniors. So I want you to mark this date down if you're listening, on March the 16th. March the 16th, our radio show right here on 90.3 WEJF FM, we've invited seniors to participate, the folks that come out to the Brevard Commission on Aging. We're going to really open up this discussion, because we're sort of a victim of our own success. As a homeowner, I love seeing what they tell me on Zillow, my house is worth. Okay, that's really exciting. But it also means your property taxes have gone up. It also means your insurance has gone up. And what we're also seeing here locally, Bill, and I'm sure you're seeing this as you look at data, is that people who are landlords, first of all, they don't get a homestead exemption. There's just a very limited senior exemption anyway. But as these property values climb, if you're a landlord, you're getting hit with insurance, and you're getting hit with property taxes.
And perhaps homeowners association fees.
Right. And then you are having to pass that along in the rent. Or worse yet, if you just bought a property and you rented, because we've seen stories where, hey, I've rented this place for all this time and I've been paying this, and then they sold it, and now somebody is coming in, they're going to tell me I got to pay double the rent. And nobody can
every
do
day.
that if you're on fixed income.
It's my calls every day. And the other thing I want to not to scare people, but to make people aware, is you can be destitute and own a home outright. I get those calls where people own their home, there's no mortgage, but they can no longer afford on their income the homeowner's insurance, the HOA fee. The taxes have gone up tremendously, and sometimes even if they can afford that, they can't afford important home maintenance like a roof.
Right.
And that it's vital. You have to have a roof. You have to have your home weatherized, particularly here in Florida. Yeah. So there's all these things people, I think a lot of people go, my mortgage is paid. And you kind of sit and rest on your laurels, right? And you feel a sense of safety and comfort from that. And it is a sense of comfort. It certainly is financially. But don't stop there. And again, it's not to worry you, but it's something to think about. Think about all the expenses that go into a home aside from your mortgage.
Yeah, so good. So good information to really be thinking about. And we're going to be advocating strongly about that this year, about this affordable housing challenge. It's not so much about necessarily that we have all the answers, but we've got to at least get the conversation started, the commissioners getting an understanding that this is a real problem for seniors and we need to be looking for solutions. So that's about it for our show today. We've covered an awful lot of ground. Want to really thank you, Bill Johnson, board certified elder law attorney, for joining us. One more time, if somebody has questions, maybe they heard something, or maybe they just want to talk to you about getting their own paperwork, how would they reach you?
They can reach our office at 321-253-1667.
And I just want to also mention that, Bill, you often do a lot of education seminars that are valuable for folks in the community at One Senior Place. And a good place to find out where those are is probably calling Bill's office, or you could look in Senior Scene magazine, because I know they publish what's going on at One Senior Place there. And thank you, Nancy, for being here today and being part of the show, too.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for what you do, and thank you to WEJF. We appreciate their support.
And John and Jim for always holding down the radio for it.
Absolutely.
And on behalf of Joe Steckler, we will see you next week. It's going to be a show you don't want to miss. Dr. Lee Sheldon is going to be with us, and he's going to talk about, in this day and age of inflation, why is dentistry have to be so expensive? And he's actually got some tips that we're going to talk about that may help you understand how you can still have good mouth health, but control your costs of doing it.
That'll be a great show.
Yeah, so we will see you in next week's radio show right here, 12 noon, WEJF.